Adele Alfano is Hamilton born and bred and has always had a love for animals. Ironically, she cannot remember a time when her family's home included a four-legged friend. Adele, unlike the singer, has enjoyed a successful career in sales, marketing, and advertising in the newspaper industry. In her current role with Autism Dog Services as the fund development manager, Adele works closely with the team to raise funds to build community partnerships, coordinating events, and overseeing fundraising volunteers. Adele is motivated with changing lives and making a meaningful difference. Today, she is thrilled to be sharing the wonderful work of Autism Dog Services. Please join me in welcoming Adele.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. And thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you, Duncan, and the whole executive that invited me. I'm so thrilled. I'm hoping everybody can hear me as well. I'm going to be moving later on because I don't like to stand in one space. But anyways, thank you so much for this wonderful turnout. Andrea and myself are really thrilled to be the only two women here. so thank you so much. That was a good morning. So thank you. So I just want to introduce as well, along with myself, we have Andrea, and that beautiful chocolate lab there is Andre. And how old is Andre now, Andrea?
Andre's 3.5.
3.5, right. And so Andrea's from this region, so I asked her if she wanted to come and make me company, and you know, here she is with this wonderful dog. So thank you so much. So just a show of hands, how many of you know that there's service dogs for people who are visually impaired? Like all of us, right? And how many of you know that there's service dogs for people who are physically disabled? Right. So most of us have heard of those things. But before you even knew about me coming here today, did you know that there was service dogs for people who have autism? Right. Very, very few. So my whole objective here is to basically share with you what it is that we do, and hopefully you'll come away a little bit more educated about service dogs for children with autism. So we have been around since 2007, our organization. And we always say that we're small but mighty. There's only 7 of us. We all work from home just to keep the costs down. We are a charitable, non-for-profit organization that is not funded by the government at all. So we appreciate sometimes the people that come out and see us, and also we appreciate your support as well. So in the 1990s, there was 1 in 250 children that had autism here in Canada. As of this morning, because I always check the stats every day, there is 1 in 65 children in Canada that have autism. So that's quite large, that's for sure. But I'm going to move now because this is enough for being behind a podium. So I'm hoping that this will be okay for everyone. You're all right with that? So right now there's 1 in 65 children in Canada that do have autism. I don't want you to be alarmed by that number, because since the 2000s, 1990s, actually we've had quite a few new discoveries about what autism is all about. We've had more doctors specializing in autism. We've had more therapists. So there's actually been children as young as 2 years old being diagnosed with autism. So of course that number is going to be a little bit different than the 1990s. But how many of you know what autism is all about, or what the autism spectrum is all about? I'm sure that, just a show of hands, I'm sure that there's some of us that have been affected by autism in our own families, or even the extended families, show of hands. So there's always been one person that has been, you know, really has had some experience with autism. But let me tell you what autism is all about. Well, there's a wide spectrum. It's called a spectrum. There's 2 polar opposites of that spectrum. One of them being that the person is a highly functioning autistic person. And that person is able to hold a job, possibly have a family, go to school, and so forth, highly functioning. I don't know if some of you watched Survivor, the very last season of Survivor. Yes, Andrea does. So there is an autistic woman for the first time on Survivor this season. And she is getting right into, she's getting her PhD. She's totally high functioning. On the other end of the spectrum, unfortunately, is the other end, which is a person that's probably nonverbal, has other health issues other than autism as well. And so that is the spectrum. It goes from one end to the exact opposite, the other polar end. Oh, that's my phone. Excuse me, I should have shut that off. So we're going to be entertained. There we go. So, in between all that, those two spectrums, those two polar opposites, we have things like OCD and ADD. You've heard about all those children having ADHD in school and so forth. So it is quite a huge, huge spectrum. So we've been around since 2007. And since 2007, we have placed over 150 service dogs to families in southwestern Ontario. Yes. You know, we say we're small but mighty. We're like David and Goliath. Like, we are making a difference. And our service area is quite large. It goes from Niagara region, this neck of the woods, to all the way to Toronto, and up towards Guelph, Cambridge, Kitchener, and Waterloo. So it's a huge area that we service, that's for sure. And so we have these families that come into our lives, and I'll tell you exactly how that all happens. But we deal with two breeds of dogs. And those dogs are golden retrievers, or labradors. And the reason why we deal with those particular two breeds is because they're incredibly intelligent. Has anybody ever had one of those two breeds? Right. So you probably can agree with me. They're incredibly intelligent, right, Andrea? They are very loving, very caring, very trainable. They're motivated by food, like who isn't, right? I'm Italian, so yes. Anyways, then you can say more. So there are wonderful breeds, and also they're custody. And we're going to tell you why the reason that's really, really important. So we get these dogs usually donated to us by reputable breeders all across Canada. We have a wonderful co-op program with professional, ethical breeders around in all of Canada. And usually these puppies are given to us, are donated to us, which makes a big difference instead of us buying those dogs, that's for sure. And they're usually given to us at about 8 weeks old, so we get these cute little puppies. And we have what we call puppy raisers. And I thought another word would be for you guys is puppy fosters, they're fosters. And these puppy raisers are an essential point of what we do. Everything that we do is around the puppy raisers. And the reason why they're so incredibly important is because for the next 12 to 18 months, these puppy raisers raise these dogs in their homes and they train them in their homes. What makes our organization a little bit different than other organizations that deal with service dogs is that we do not have our dogs being trained in kennels. We have our dogs being trained at home. So the dogs start training at 11 weeks old in these puppy raisers' homes. And so our whole objective with our organization is that we want the puppies to be associated and with different events. We want the dogs to be socialized. So wherever that puppy raiser goes, that dog is going to follow. So if that puppy raiser's in class, the dog is going to be there. A family gathering, a family barbecue, a hockey game, an event much like this, their school, their library, whatever, that dog is going to be going there. Restaurant, movie theater. And the reason why we want the dog to be socialized is because when they finally do go to a family that has been waiting for that dog for the past 2 years, then that dog is not surprised. It already knows about going to a movie theater or a restaurant or a family gathering. So nothing comes as a surprise. As you can see, Andre right here, like, this is not bothering him at all, let me tell you, just being here. He's pretty chill, and I've never seen any of our dogs bark ever. He only barks because he's excited to see me, because he's my favorite, and he's my favorite dog. So those dogs go to everywhere that those puppy raisers go. So they have these dogs for 12 to 18 months. So the reason why those puppy raisers are angels is because, could you imagine you taking care of a dog for 12 to 18 months, and then after those 18 months, that dog is now graduated to go to a family that has been waiting for the past 2 years. So you can only imagine how heart-wrenching it is. But I do have to say that those puppy raisers, they know from day one that what they're doing is for a higher purpose. That eventually that dog is going to be going to that family that's been waiting around for a while. So right now, as I speak, we have 48 puppy raisers. We have 48 dogs going through training right now at all different ages, different skill sets and so forth. And they're wonderful. So along with those puppies being trained at home, we have every 2 weeks, we have what we call puppy classes. And our trainers are there. So these puppy raisers can go to these classes with any challenges they might be having with the dog, or any new behavioral things that the dog might be having, and so forth. So it's a great support for them. But they're also volunteers. So that's why I say that they're angels, because they're volunteering their time, their efforts, and so forth. Of course, we as an organization take care of the crates for the dogs, for the puppy raisers, of course, the food, the medical bills, and so forth, that's for sure. So there's 48 of them right now, and so eventually those dogs are going to be a full-fledged service dogs. So after around the 12-month mark of them having those dogs, we assess them and we see where they're at in terms of their skills and so forth. And I have to say that not all dogs make it. There are some dogs that don't make it through the program, and we call it a career change. And so the dogs are usually put up for adoption. So they're snatched very, very easily, very fast, because you can only imagine you have a highly trained dog that's coming to live with you. They become companions for adults with autism, which is, a lot of that is overlooked because some adults with autism do need dogs as well. And one other thing is that our dogs, Border Services love our dogs. Our dogs who didn't make it through the whole program are snapped up by Border Services, land crossings right over here, airports. I tell you, our dogs are living the best life. They're in California, they're in Florida, they're working a Boston Marathon. So I always say that the dog may not have made it as to be a dog for a child with autism, but it's doing what it's supposed to do. It might not have been great for a child for autism, but it's a great sniff dog, and it's a great detection dog. And they love the chase and all that wonderful stuff. So after all that, at around 16 months, the dogs go into what we call advanced training. And that's really, really critical. And there's 2 skills that those dogs learn that are very, very important. If you know of anybody that does have a child with autism, they are a flight risk. They'll get overwhelmed. They'll get, especially if they're nonverbal, they can't express that they're overwhelmed and so forth. And so they'll bolt. They'll bolt into traffic. They'll bolt, trying to get away from that situation that's so overwhelming for them. So they put themselves in danger, of course. They put their caretakers in danger, trying to chase after them and so forth. And so those dogs at that particular advanced stage, they are learned to how to be tethered to that child. And it's incredibly important. And that's the reason why we go with bigger dogs. So by the time Andre was, 18 months, he was a good hefty 60, 65 pounds, right? Andrea, I would say probably close to that. So they're trained to act almost like a stone. That child is not moving when it's tethered to that dog. I tell you, that child is not going to be going into traffic, running away from that situation. So as much as we would love, having a Chihuahua or a Shih Tzu in our organization, it's not going to work, because it's a smaller dog, it's a smaller breed, and this dog is not going to be letting that child into any type of danger. So that's the first thing he learns at advanced training. And the second thing that he learns as well is that if you know of anybody who does have a child with autism, they're going to have those meltdowns. They're going to be on the floor. They're going to be screaming and yelling and punching and crying and so forth. So that dog is trained at that particular point to lay all fours on top of that child and apply almost like deep pressure and act almost like a weighted blanket on top of that child. The heart rate goes down, the crying ceases a little bit, and it relaxes that child. So think about you being at home with your own pet. And if you've had a really bad day, you've had your dog or your cat beside you or whatever, and you're stroking it. And it has been scientifically proven that your heart rate goes down, your blood pressure goes down, and you start to feel a little bit better. The serotonin goes through your body as well. So that's what it does for that child. So those are the two skills. So if we had the Chihuahua or the Shih Tzu, it wouldn't apply that same type of really deep pressure onto that child, that's for sure. So I have here, so after they, I'm sorry, I just got ahead of myself here. So after they pass everything, they become what we call a certified service dog. And they go to our family that's on our waiting list. Right now, we have 15 families that have been waiting almost 2 years for them to get that service dog. And they do have to go through that process of those 2 years. So we don't bump anybody on that list. Whoever's next gets that dog that has just been certified and ready to go to a family. So Andrea is that family that got a service dog. That is Andre right over here. And before Andre was that service dog for the family, he was a service dog in training. He went through all that training before he had that stamp approval, but he is now a certified service dog. So I'm going to let Andrea she doesn't have to get up here because I know she doesn't want to do that. But I'm going to just let her talk to you about what it's like having a service dog in her family.
Yeah, thank you. So Andrea is a huge blessing to our family. My son is an adult on the spectrum. So because we applied before COVID, we were fortunate enough once COVID, all the restrictions were lifted because there was restrictions for travel. There was some dogs that had to be picked up and hard to get out when everything's closed down. So my son was a little bit older than normal just because of those things. So he's a huge help for our son. He does do the deep pressure for my son, helps him regulate his emotions. He also encourages him to get out into the community. We have gone to hockey games. I could show you pictures of Andre sitting watching the Ice Dogs. We've gone to see the Harlem Globetrotters, and their mascot loves, Lovey loves Andre, as well as Bones. And we've traveled last summer. We went by car, we drove all the way out to Nova Scotia. So we were able to go and see all those sites. Normally those kind of things wouldn't be possible for my son. He has too much social anxiety, and having people look at him, stare at him, watching new things. He was able to participate. We were able to go out into the ocean and paddleboard and go and see all the sites. We were able to go to on the boat cruise. The gentleman that dives for Oak Island. I don't know if anybody here watches Oak Island, but we're huge fans. And we went on the boat, and the gentleman there, he said, well, your dog better behave. I better not see your dog on, trying to get on people or barking. And I'm like, my dog's a service dog. He sat down in a puddle of ocean water, didn't move, and he said, that's the best dog I've ever seen. And I said, that's because he's been raised. We're so thankful for the two ladies that raised Andre. They are both University of Guelph students. One has graduated, one is in her last year of veterinary school. And oddly enough, the one girl that graduated last year, she actually worked with my daughter at Great Wolf Lodge, and she said, well, I'm going off to university. I get emotional. And she said, I'm going to be raising a dog for Autism Dog Services. And my daughter didn't think anything of it. You know, we weren't on the list yet then. And shortly after we got on the list, and so she started following, and she goes, oh, we're going to be amazing if you ended up with the dog I trained. Well, guess what happened? We ended up with the dog that she trained. Just how unique things are. And 2 weeks ago, he went and had a play date with the dog that was raised with him. And he saw her, and it was just like yesterday. They had fun running around. They knew who each other were. They were so happy to see each other. So hopefully we're going to be able to see the other gal when she finishes her program. And she goes, we're just so thankful for those people. For us, it's important to keep those contacts, but without those puppy raisers, we wouldn't have this amazing opportunity to have Andre with us. He's very much part of our family. This morning, when we came back from our walk, I said, oh, he was upset because I didn't take off his collar. And I said, well, we're going to see Auntie Adele. Auntie Adele loves him and he loves her. Well, I got jumped. And right away, it's like, okay, Mom, are we going? Are we going? Are we going? In the car, he's got his seat, he's got his seatbelt. And in the summertime, he's got his head hanging out the window, looking at everything. So happy to go everywhere. And can't say anymore. Just, we're so thankful.
Yes. And you know, thank you, Andrea. We do know that the dog not only affects the child with autism, but affects the whole family as well. I know that she's benefited from having Andre there as well. So how much do you think it costs for us to put a dog through that whole training program? Just a dollar amount, just shout it out.
40 grand.
40 grand? Not yet, no. Yeah, it's $25,000 for us to train one of these dogs, and we absorb that cost. So I do want to add to you that these dogs are given to families at no cost. The reason why we do that is that we already know how stressful it is to have a child with autism in your family. We don't want to add any more burden to them saying, you owe us now $25,000 for this dog that we just gave you. So we basically, these dogs are on loan to these families. We still own the dogs, and they're on loan, and we retire the dogs usually at 11 years old because they've had enough, right, of doing their job. And usually the dogs are adopted into the family. Let's face it, after 11 years, the bond is too strong. There is no way that they're going to give that dog away. But I do want to educate you on a few things as well. Andrew, do you want to share with people what people should do when they do see a service dog? And like me sometimes, because I'm so excited to see Andre and I'll go, look at you. So we're not supposed to do when we're
So when you see any dog, you should always ask before you approach them if you can pet them. But especially a service dog, you should definitely not try to sneak up behind or go and do like little kissy sounds or those kind of things. Because as you can see, those noises still do work because they're doing a job that distracts them from doing their job. They are, after all, just normal dogs with a very special assignment. So it's very easy to get distracted in a big environment. Oftentimes, you can see Andre and I out at Costco maybe once or twice a week. Costco is his favorite place. So those are the big things. And then the other thing is like, don't send your kids or your grandkids and say, well, it's okay to go say hi. It's not, because we don't like to be put in a position where it's like, no, the dog's working. You know, we're very accommodating. We're very lucky that Andrea is such a social butterfly that he enjoys saying hello to almost anybody and everybody, that we would say, you know, it's okay, but you just have to get him to sit and to say hello. And he knows very well the command that he has to do for those things.
Thank you, Andrea. I do want to say that as soon as you see a vest on a dog, that is a working dog. So try to not approach them. The other educational thing that I want to share with you as well is that all of our dogs are allowed everywhere. It is the law here in Canada that if it's a service dog with a vest, it's allowed to go any place. The only place that our dogs cannot go into is industrial kitchens or restaurant kitchens, which makes sense, right? You've got all that air and so forth. But they're allowed to go into the movie theater. They're allowed to go into a restaurant within the seated area, of course, and hockey games and all that other stuff. So they're never denied anything. If anybody does get denied, then tell us about it, that's for sure. And the other thing is more awareness. The other second educational thing is because, I guess, because of COVID and so forth, and people were isolated, we're experiencing a lot more emotional issues and mental issues with people and so forth. So now on Amazon, there are vests being sold and people are buying them, putting the vests on their dogs or their iguana or their, you know, whatever is their therapy dog or therapy animal, and going into all these different places. And it truly is diluting what it is that we do. So what I want you all to be aware of, and I know that he's chilling right now, but to have him come up here, Andre and Andrea, come up here. So how do you know if it's a real service dog as opposed to one that's been bought on Amazon? Well, first of all, it's going to have a vest. And this one has our logo and it has our company, well, our organization name, ADS, Autism Dog Services. But if you look a little bit more closely, there's some little pouches on the sides. Andre has his own ID, kind of like almost like a driver's license with his picture and so forth. And there's a letter as well from our organization saying, yes, this is a certified service dog. So if those people don't have that, on Amazon, I'm pretty sure it just says service dog on it, or, you know, therapy dog or whatever. That'll kind of give you an idea that this is a true life service dog. So
Or a TV star
he
too.
is a TV star, that's for sure. So I've done enough talking, and I know you probably have a million questions, and I'm gonna probably get John with the microphone as well. So does anybody have any questions regarding what we do and so forth?
Adele, you can do the paraphrase thing until I get the microphone.
Yes.
Recipient family.
Okay, so the question was, does the recipient family have to go through any kind of training? Well, the best person to answer is Andrea, who is the recipient.
Yes, when we got Andre and any of the dogs that go into the family, there is what's called a public access test that the government requires to show that service dog has met the standards. There are very strict standards that the dog has to meet. So the family has to get used to the dog has to get used to the family, but then the family has to also learn those commands that the dog is used to in order to maintain good training. And then the dogs are trained every year, the first year, and then every 2 years after that. And anywhere we go, we can be asked to show documentation to support that it is a certified service dog.
Questions?
I had a student with a service dog one year, and she signed up for my London, England field trip. So I thought, well, that's no problem. So we were going Air Transat, so I contacted Air Transat, no problem. The dog goes for free. And I phoned the residents, the two residents in London where we were staying. No problem, they're used to having service dogs. So fine. And then I told her that I made all these arrangements. It was just fine for her to take a service dog to England. And she said, oh no, she said, I'm not taking the dog. It gives me a chance to be away from the dog, have a holiday. And I thought, oh my God. She was deaf. And she said, no, as long as, people speak to me, I can lip read. She said, I'm just fine. She wanted a holiday from her dog. So my question is, do people feel such a responsibility to the dog and they're like a carer of the dog in some way that they need a holiday? Have you ever run up against this kind of need to be away from your dog?
Well, yet we have a whole bunch of puppy raisers, as I shared with you. They have their own chat room, and a lot of them will say, I'm going to a family wedding up north. Can somebody please watch Andre for 2 days while I'm gone? And that gives them a break. We actually encourage that, if I have to be honest, because it gives the dog a different person that does the training for them, a different atmosphere. It's win-win for everyone. The person gets to be away from the training, and the dog gets to be in a different home and gets excited about it. I've never heard about anybody going like to England to get away from the dog, but that's really unusual. But anyways, thank you for sharing that. Anyone else?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank you. I really enjoyed your presentation. I'm also a person that has a service dog, and I've had her for 15 years. She's having a little bit of health problems right now. That's unfortunate. Over the time, she does pay attention at ease. And she was trained many, many years ago. And we've had her since she was about 8 weeks old. And I had the opportunity one day, we were talking about the difference between the pig and the bulldogs. Well, mine's a Shih Tzu Pomeranian. But now,
I shouldn't have said anything about the Shih Tzu.
no, that's okay. Yeah, I understand. At one point, my wife had dementia, so we were walking one day, and there was a young fellow in the middle of the street, and he was down on his hands and knees with tears pouring down his face. He stopped the traffic. Well, to my amazement, my little one, Nikki, wanted to go. Well, first of all, I wanted him off the street, and I allowed him to go to it. The moment he saw her, he started to change, and within, I would say, about 45 minutes, I said, now, get off the street. He says, if the dog can come with me. So we went over to the side and told him his long story, but it is amazing the work you're doing.
Thank you for sharing that. I've seen miracles happen, I have to be honest. I love my job. Every single day I see miracles happen. I see lives change. I've seen a child who's been nonverbal, within 1 week of receiving the service dog said the word mama. You have 7 women at a meeting. We only meet once a month, live in person because we all work from home. Getting up, high-fiving each other, crying, hugging each other, because that's the reason why we do all that hard work. Is for those type of moments. And they might not seem much like for some of you, but they're huge milestones, that's for sure. And I can attest to the fact that that dog sensed something, and I know that Andre senses when the family's having a bad day or Andrea's having a hard day. I know that for a fact. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? We can get him to do some work. Come on, let's go.
Hang on just a minute. I'll get there. Excuse me.
You mentioned Amazon, and I wanted to expand on what you mean by that.
Well, Amazon, so the vest that you saw Andre wearing, Amazon, you can buy any kind of vest for your dog that says training or therapy dog or whatever. And they're not vests that are certified by us, by any organization, Minds Foundation, anything. So they're just people that are just buying this so they can bring their dog to the movie theater, they can bring the dog to the restaurant, they can bring the dog on flights and so forth. And it really is diluting the fact that we have these dogs. You know, maybe the best costs them $20, but our dogs, their value is $25,000. You know, it's a big value, right? Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm just looking some up on Amazon, they're like $25. So they're people trying to beat the system. Okay.
Any questions?
Right here.
I have one, how do you raise your funds?
Good question. So we're a charitable organization. We're not funded by the government at all. So we are heavily reliant on the generosity of the public. Sponsorships from different corporations, grants, funds, you name it, events. We're having a big Easter egg hunt this Saturday, in which she was a large part of its success. Any type of event, any type of funding, we're always applying. So, and we have the generosity of some very large donors as well that understand the value of these dogs and what it is that we do.
Have you made an effort to work with the government to get sponsorship for receipt purposes?
With the government? Well, we're on Canada Help, so you'll get a receipt if you make a donation on Canada Help.
Okay.
For sure, for sure. And I'm also here with the, you know, I don't want to solicit it too much, but I'm here with the donation box and, you know, I have the debit machine and all that kind of stuff. But my whole objective is not so much that we get we always say every dollar counts in our organization. It is to spread the word about what it is that we do, because you might not want to be a puppy raiser, but you have grandchildren that love dogs and have a little bit of time, or you know somebody who's semi-retired that would like to do this, make a difference in the lives of children with autism, then you spread the word and you'd be incredibly grateful, that's for sure.
Another one here.
You almost answered my question. I was gonna ask about the families that, or the people that start the dogs, raise the dogs at first. Compensation, that's all free, is it not?
Yeah, they're volunteers, they do it for free, we don't pay their gas, we don't
That's,
pay, you know, we try to give them as much as we can, you know, free tickets to the hockey game or whatever.
how do you get into the program?
The puppy raiser?
Yeah.
I'll just go on our website and, just put in an application and then we give you a call. We're always looking for puppy raisers, always. Because we are getting 6 dogs next week from a reputable breeder. And so we need 6 puppy raisers. So if anybody's interested, let me know. So yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Rick, hang on just a second. I'm getting lots of exercise today.
Do these puppy raisers have to have some special kind of qualifications or training program themselves? I mean, what, I've had a dog, I didn't do a very good job at bringing him up. But, you know, because we were very inconsistent,
Yes,
and that was just with us.
that's
I
it.
mean, in order to be able to do this job properly, what kind of training does a puppy raiser have to have?
That's a great question, actually. I think the number one thing is you have to have a love of dogs. You have to love dogs, first of all, and animals. But we do have a lot of people who've had exposure.
No closer.
Oh, we have had a lot of people who've had exposure in training dogs who are puppy raisers. So the majority of our puppy raisers are at the University of Guelph. And the reason being is because there's a veterinary school at the University of Guelph. So you'll see our dogs all throughout campus. So they already have that background. But also they have to go, that's one of the things that we encourage them to go every 2 weeks to our puppy classes. We have puppy classes in Hamilton, Lancaster, Brantford, Cambridge, Guelph. And so we encourage them to go to those because that's where they bring up any issues that they might be having with the dogs. So the dogs are, when they're trained, it's very, very easy process. In other words, we don't all of a sudden have this skill that they have to learn all of a sudden. It is little, like, how do you eat an elephant? Like one bite at a time, right? So, you know, we try to do that. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes and no.
Okay, all right.
I like, what kind of skills would I have to have in order to be able to train that puppy? What's the process I go through?
Well, we have trainers that will train the puppy racers. We have trainers that do that. Give a little bit.
So for example, like maybe tonight, if there was a class, there would be, okay, so you're gonna get your dog to learn to sit. So then they would give you clues and suggestions on how to get your dog to sit. And they would go over, they would show you with the dog what to do, how to do it, and then they would get you to do those things. So then for the next 2 weeks, then you would be working on that specific skill with the dog so that they would master that. And then would move on. So it's kind of like a mastery program, kind of, where they would learn one skill at a time, not where you'd expect them to learn everything all at once. You may be working on that because they don't get to go out in public right away. They do have to have the basic kind of general manners, how to behave on a leash, because a 2-month-old dog doesn't often know how to walk on a leash. So those are things that you practice and you practice and you practice. So that's what they do, is they practice those skills. And then as they get to a certain level, then they will be told, okay, so now your dog is ready to go out into like the grocery store or into maybe a library. You would start them off slowly so that they wouldn't get overwhelmed, like you would go to a hockey game your first night, where it's going to be really loud. It would be more kind of a quiet atmosphere and get them some exposure. That you would do those things, because those are those skills that they learn when they're a puppy, that they have to learn and remember, and then the families have to do those things. And it's quite extensive.
Thank you, Andrea. You should be the person to answer that question. Yes, anyone, yes. Oh,
Have you worked with the high schools for volunteer hours? Students need so many hours to graduate doing field work. Would that be a resource you could consider?
yeah, we do have a lot of students that are our volunteers, but not so much the puppy raisers. We wouldn't have a high school student be a puppy raiser. We would have probably a university student be a puppy raiser, for sure. We're always looking for volunteers. That's 80% of what it is that we do is with volunteers, that's for sure. Yeah, we're always looking for that. And also, as well as when you do go to university as well, you have to have a certain amount of hours before you get your degree. So that's the reason why we have a lot of puppy raisers in the university.
One thing that I can express is when I started out, I spent quite a number of years with being trained. Now, I always looked at it as I was trained, not it was me first and then the dog. Great.
Yeah, the families are definitely trained along the way. Anybody else have any other questions? Yes, way in the back.
No, my watch is counting my steps, so it's all good.
Thank you. I'm wondering about the dog itself. Because dogs have to go to the bathroom and they have to eat. How do you take care of that?
Service dogs, if it's a true service dogs are allowed to eat while they're, have a jacket. While they're working, they don't get to go to the bathroom and they don't get to eat, they don't get to drink. So they have to have a break and the jacket has to come off in order to do those things. So when we've gone out to restaurants, there are some restaurants that say, oh, I'll get a bowl of water for your dog. And I'm like, I don't have a dog, I have a service dog. My service dog is very good and fine, thank you very much for offering, but he knows that he can't eat or drink. So it's just kind of, if you're going out to eat and you're bringing the dog, obviously the dog has to eat before you do. Otherwise, it's not gonna be a good experience. It's kind of like when you have your kids, you wanna set them up for success. Make sure that they're gonna be successful anywhere that they go, whether it's an outing or you wanna have a good time. Well, you wanna have a good time, you wanna make sure that your dog is prepared. So you wanna make sure the dog has the things. So this morning before we came, he had his breakfast. We went for a walk, he did his business, he had some time to sniff around and see some friends and whatnot, and then he loves a car ride. So, and he knew he was coming to see Adele, so it's just about setting the dog up for success in an environment that you know what they're gonna have to do.
And he is a well-behaved dog, like, all of our dogs, and I've been in this organization 2.5 years, I've never seen any of our dogs bark. They do not bark. They do not engage with any other dogs. We were at the Woodstock Pet Expo a couple of weeks ago. There were 1,600 people on that Saturday that came through. All the other dogs are there with their owners all barking and they're, going crazy. These dogs are just like right now, as you see Andre right now, just chill, nothing bothers them, they don't engage or anything like that. Yeah. Anyone else? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How do you introduce the dog into the family with the autistic child? How long does that take? And what is the process like? That must be quite involved.
Just for the folks on Zoom, the question was about how the dogs are introduced to the families. Go ahead.
When we got Andre, so we, probably a month before we got him, we were notified by the advanced trainer and coordinator for the program, that there was a potential match for our family and that we would have to go, we had to go out to the Large Mall and meet with the advanced trainers and with 2 dogs. And so we had to take turns, my daughter, my son and myself, walking the dog through the different areas of the mall. We wanted to see how the dog interacted with us and how we were interacting with him. Did he still remember the things? Were we able to control him and get him to stay on point? With not really having a lot of training at this point for us, other than, okay, so these are the basic commands. So then we were notified probably a couple of weeks later, and specifically remember sitting at McMaster University Hospital for a half an hour appointment that was 2.5 hours behind, and getting a phone call saying, Andrea, so we'd like to offer Andrea to you. And I'm like, yes, okay. That'd be great. That wow, I was expecting a huge, like, yay. I'm in the middle of the waiting room filled with 10 people. And I think that everybody would wonder what was going on. Deep down, I was reading a mile a minute. So then we had to set up a time for when the advanced trainer could drop off Andre. We had a list of supplies that we needed to get. And then the advanced trainer came with Andre and spent a few hours explaining how things would go, how often she would come. She met with us every week for probably about 2 months so that we were comfortable with doing the government access test and passed that test. So after the first week, the first day, she spent probably about 85 hours with us. And after that first day, she said, so do you think we'd like to keep Andre for tonight and see how things go? I'm like, yes. And so we kept Andre and she checked in with us and made sure, we were doing fine and said, okay, so we're going to meet, in 2 days, we're going to meet down at this, restaurant, and we're going to go for an outing. I think the first outing was Dairy Queen. That was the favorite thing for the day. And then it was McDonald's and all those kind of things. So they do work very, very closely with families and do keep in touch through the whole time that you have the dog. If you have any issues, then you can contact the administration saying, you know what, we're having issues with this, what can we do?
That answer your question, Mark? Yeah. Any other questions? Am I holding you back from time or?
Not up to me.
Oh, okay.
Andy's in charge, so.
We good? Any other questions? All right, well, I'm gonna be here after your meeting, and if you want to come and ask questions, Andrea will be here as well. But before we end today, I just want to share something from a family. And it really does say what it is that we do, that's for sure. And I'm just gonna put this back here. Goodness. Help.
Just hang on to it.
Okay, I'll hang on to it. So I'm going to read a wonderful little story from one of our families. And there's two people.
Two people want to see it.
Okay, there are two people that are on this little story here. Riva is the service dog into this family, and Leanna is the young girl that has autism. Riva has become the most amazing companion for our daughter. The bond between Riva and Leanna are something truly special, something that seems almost faded. It's hard to believe that just a month ago, Riva wasn't a part of our lives, because now it feels like she's always been there and she was meant to be here. Riva has a gentle, patient, and nurturing spirit that just envelops Leanna in comfort and warmth. Riva's cuddles are a haven, and Leanna melts into them, finally able to relax in a way that she never could before. Every day, we see Leanna finding more peace in the routines that once were so challenging. The car rides that she used to dread, now she sits happily with Riva by her side. Public outings that once overwhelmed her, she braves them with confidence because Riva is there. Even bedtime, which used to be a struggle, have become a warm, calming time with Riva curled up beside her. What's truly astonishing is how much Leanna communicates since Riva arrived. It's as if Riva unlocked a part of her voice that was hidden away, waiting for the right companion to bring it out. Now, Leanna talks to Riva all the time, telling her about her day, sharing her thoughts, and listening to stories together. This profound change in Leanna's life is a testimonial in Riva's incredible training and the dedication of the people that raised her. The love and care they poured into Riva is now part of our family, making Leanna's world a better, kinder place. Words can't fully express the gratitude we feel for these remarkable people and the extraordinary dog that they've given us. Riva is not just a companion. She's a lifeline, a source of strength, and the reason for Leanna to embrace each new day with hope. Thank you will never be enough. But it's a start. Our journey with her is just beginning, and I can't wait to see what the future holds, this incredible pair. That truly encapsulates exactly what it is that we do. And I think Andrea can attest to that, those words as well. And, I've read that a million times, and each time I get emotional because our whole objective is about changing lives. And I truly think with these lovely four-legged animals that we're truly changing lives. So I do thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to all of you. I appreciate your time and the invitation to come and speak. And hopefully we get to see each other. I'm going to be here for a little while, and Andrea will be here with me, and maybe I'll take her out to lunch. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I have think 2 or 3 times, maybe 10 times, about how I was going to thank you, because it kept evolving and evolving and evolving. I think of all the speakers from my perspective, this has been one of the very best presentations. And I thank you for that. When I talk to speakers, I sometimes mention that if you have a PowerPoint, that's fine. But if you don't have a PowerPoint, that's maybe finer because you're talking about your personal experiences and so forth. So let me, first of all, thank Angela and Andre and you, Adele, for the presentation. The idea of bringing Angela and Andre here as a physical testimony is outstanding, absolutely outstanding. So I think there's no question that we have thoroughly enjoyed it. As an association, as a group, this envelope has got a letter in it that indicates to you that our group didn't quite reach the 25,000 mark.
You didn't?
No, but we started at $30 and perhaps we could go from there. So thank you very much and appreciate it. Oh, yes, there are leaflets at the front and the donation box for us as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.